Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. A person in North Yorkshire has been diagnosed with a new strain of swine flu. It's the first case of its kind in the UK. We'll hear from a health expert and a pig farmer about what it means for humans. Also tonight, councillors in our region say they're at breaking point financially following a reduction in government funding.
I've been in meetings where council leaders said we're all going to go bust in the next 2 years. It's just a matter of when.
And dog owners in Yorkshire call for the ban on dangerous breeds like the XL Bully to be scrapped. And we can see inside the new pool, which has changed the lives of children with complex needs.
And there was a bit of snow on the top of Home Moss this morning. It is going to be a very cold week, but is there any snow in the forecast? Join me to find out.
Hello, thank you for your company this Monday evening. A person in North Yorkshire has been confirmed to have a strain of flu similar to viruses spreading in pigs. The UK Health Security Agency says it's the first time it's been detected in the UK. Now, close contacts of the individual who was actually tested by their GP after experiencing respiratory symptoms are now being traced. Our health correspondent Jamie Coulson is at the UK HSA's office in Leeds for us tonight. So Jamie, what more do we know about this?
Well, as you say, this is the first time this strain of flu H1N2 has been detected in humans in the UK. It is normally a strain found circulating among pigs. Now, what we understand is that it was detected during routine surveillance when a member of the public was tested at their GP practice in North Yorkshire. We understand their symptoms were mild and they have since made a full recovery. Experts will now, however, be looking at how they came into contact with the virus and how they became infected. They will also be looking at close contacts to see whether they need testing and, of course, whether they may need some help with healthcare support.
Jamie, you said they're first human in the UK to have been known to have had it, so this must be quite unusual.
Well, there have been around 50 cases of this worldwide since 2005, although none of those genetically linked to this particular case. We know that surveillance will now be increased via the testing that goes on at GPs and hospitals in North Yorkshire to see if there are any other cases out there. And of course, experts will be looking at the characteristics of this virus to see whether it poses any risk to human health.
Jamie, thank you. Well, the pig industry in Yorkshire and the Humber was worth more than £500 million to the region's economy last year. So how worried are those rearing pigs and working in the supply chain? Duncan Berkshire is a vet based in Ripon. He told us people in North Yorkshire shouldn't be too concerned.
The fact that it's in North Yorkshire, it could be anywhere in the country, and as previously found elsewhere in the globe. The important thing is that it's been found, which is down to our great surveillance side of things, and that both the humans and the veterinary sphere will be making sure that we can monitor that over the coming days and weeks. We know that there's no transmission through any meat products, and there's no actual identification that it's moved from pigs into humans at this point directly. So we're still early days, and we need to learn more from what's going on the ground before we can draw any firm conclusions, for sure.
Let's hear from a healthcare professional now. You may remember Dr. Andrew Lee. He was a regular on Look North during the COVID pandemic. He's now Regional Deputy Director at the UK Health Security Agency, which oversees public health issues. Thank you for joining us this evening. How concerned should we be about this, Dr. Lee?
Hi, good evening. So at this stage, we're at the very early part of the investigations. So it's a little bit too early to call it. We're taking a really precautionary approach at this point in time, just to be on the safe side. So for most of the public, I think the general advice is just carry on for now, really.
And what's happening behind the scenes? You mentioned about looking further into it.
Indeed. So I think Jamie gave a lovely summary. At this point in time, we're really trying to get as much information as we can about the case and people they may have come into contact with, trying to work out where could this infection have come from, really. And that might give us clues as to how this virus behaves and actually allow us to work out just how dangerous this virus might be or not might be.
So what's your advice to anyone who might have been in contact with pigs in particular?
Okay, so I think for most people, if you've been in contact with pigs, I wouldn't worry too much about it at this point. The better advice really is for people who've got cold symptoms, and this time of year we've got a lot of them. Good old-fashioned common sense, you know. If you're ill, you might want to keep away from vulnerable people till you've recovered. And sensible messages like catch it, bin it, kill it, really.
Dr. Andrew Lee, good to see you again. Thank you for your time. Now, next tonight, councils across Yorkshire have told Look North they've lost over £800 million of government funding since 2015. And with that, thousands of jobs have also been lost. All week, we're taking a closer look at councils' finances. The government says they've increased funding in the past year, but some councils say they are at breaking point. Our political editor, James Vincent, is here with more. It's going to be a busy week, James.
Yeah, evening, Amy. Of course, we've talked a lot about council budgets in the past, so we thought we'd try and pull it all together and see what's happening in a year that seems to have brought real pressures for our councils. But first, how do councils get and spend money? Here's a little look at it. There are three main ways that councils get their money. Of course, it's all our money. The first one is council tax. They also get to keep half of the business rates that they make. And the third way is the government giving them grants. So, for example, in Wakefield, £100 of your money breaks down like this. £31 is spent on education, £23 is spent on adult social care, and £15 is spent on looking after vulnerable children. And that is instantly 70% of your budget gone. And that's before you get to roads, bins, health and everything else a council does. And they're struggling. Councils need to pay the bills as well. Wakefield reckons it might need £6.9 million extra to pay for energy this year. They've also seen a big increase in pressure on services. They think an extra £20 million is needed to help with adult and children's services. And the amount of money they get from the government's gone down as well. Across the country, government grants have gone down by 40% over the last 10 years. They're getting squeezed from all sides. Right, lots to get our heads round, so we thought we'd get more heads. Our political reporters are out and about to see what's happening where you live. We'll hear from Gemma, Lucy and Richard in a second. Basically, the headline here is that councils have got less money from the government than they used to have. But how much less? Well, compared to 2015, £828 million of government funding has been lost in our council budgets. That's money they're not getting any more from central government. Some, of course, is still coming in from other government funds, the Levelling Up Fund, for example, but for most places that is not covering the losses. And when you've got less, you spend less. Since 2015, spending by our councils on services has dropped by £1.6 billion. Gemma Dillon is our West Yorkshire political reporter and she's been looking at what's going on there.
Here in Leeds, they're looking at a funding gap of almost £60 million next year. It could mean around 750 job losses. And the local authority will set out more plans, more details over the next few weeks about how it plans to tackle the issue. Bradford Council is warning it could have to make drastic cuts as they've got a funding gap of £68 million. They point to children's social care as the reason behind that. And Kirklees, of course, they have to make savings of almost £50 million or risk having to effectively declare itself bankrupt. They're looking at closing care homes, leisure centres, council buildings, as well as increasing things like car parking charges to try and rake some more money in.
I couldn't afford to pay anymore. I just couldn't afford to pay anymore.
I simply can't understand why something like the sports centre will be closed when you look at the benefit it does to a lot of people.
It's getting worse, it's crazy, everywhere shooting down. Jersey's getting like a bloody ghost town now, it is.
Now, since 2010, 13,000 council jobs have been lost. Of course, some places have moved services around, but these are the figures that councils have given us here at BBC Look North. Lucy Ashton is our South Yorkshire political reporter.
Well, James, government investment in South Yorkshire is peanuts. That's what the Chief Executive of Sheffield Council says. Kate Josephs reckons you can buy a Premier League striker for more money than has been invested in this part of the region. Sheffield Council has an £18 million budget black hole, and it's the same over in Barnsley. I've been talking to businesses in this area and they're already noticing a difference.
I mean, it's painful across the board, public services, and obviously that's not all down to the City Council, it's down to national government. And I'm shocked. I'm 60 years of age this year, and I can see such a massive change in public services.
Labour leaders in Rotherham and Doncaster have teamed up and written to the Chancellor. They warned that councils are being pushed to the brink because there's not enough government funding for them to provide services.
Now, we talked about extra pressures for energy, more people needing services for like children's services. Councils here are currently forecasting that they'll overspend this year by nearly £200 million. Richard Edwards is our political reporter in North Yorkshire.
Well, James, compared to my political reporter colleagues, I've had a bit of an easier job this time because last April, York and North Yorkshire went from 9 councils to 2. And why that matters here is because senior officers and top politicians at the new North Yorkshire Council say the reserves from the old district councils and savings it can make by merging some departments can help deal with the £70 million it has to save over the next 3 years. City of York Council says its picture is much bleaker, looking to save £40 million over 4 years and £11 million in this financial year alone. So that's by next March, April. We've been asking people in Scarborough if they've noticed any differences since the councils came together.
I've heard about changes, but nothing seems to have changed. Bins are still collected on time and they're doing a great job on that. The roads are still being swept.
To go and talk to a person, it's hard work to find the right channels to go down.
Waste Northallerton, isn't it? That's miles away.
Senior officers and top politicians at both councils say this is the toughest financial time they've ever known.
And about that overspend, just in Bradford, well, that's forecasting they'll overspend by £68 million this year alone. And there were some really strong words from their council leader today.
I've been in meetings where council leaders said we're all going to go bust in the next 2 years. It's just a matter of when. And that is not a good way of planning public services. What it means is you've got a lot of staff working full time trying to cut money rather than actually trying to improve service and deliver better services. It is absolute a waste of public money. And the government don't seem to really care about that at the moment. I need them to care more about places like Bradford.
We're going to be looking at a couple of our councils and see if they're managing their money well. We've also been chasing Michael Gove on this, the Minister in charge. We've asked him 3 times for an interview. Nothing from his department so far on all of this, but we did catch up with the Chancellor while he was in Yorkshire.
Well, we do a lot to support local councils, and I announced a big increase in funding for local councils in the autumn statement a year ago, but we do in the end need them to be well run locally. You've heard the government's concerns about Kirklees Council, and through Michael Gove, the Community Secretary, we monitor the situation very carefully.
Amy, one quick illustration of the pressures that council are facing. County Hall, where I found that thing in that package there in Wakefield, is temporarily closed at the moment because they can't afford to heat it.
James, thank you. Well, as James mentioned, we are going to be looking at council funding all week, and we want to hear from you. Have you noticed the cuts in your areas? How has it affected you, whether it's in education, social care, fly tipping, potholes? You can email us look.north@bbc.co.uk. How have council cuts affected you? We want to hear from you. Let's have a look at some of the day's other news now. A 15-year-old boy has been arrested after a fire on a bus in Bradford. These pictures show the number 607 bus well alight and pouring smoke into the sky last month. The bus has already reached its last stop and no one was hurt. The boy has been arrested on suspicion of criminal damage and released on bail. Passengers expecting to fly from Leeds Bradford Airport have been warned to arrive 3 hours early due to work to install new security measures. Construction is expected to be completed in February. The new scanners will mean luggage can be checked without people needing to unpack. Take some extra snacks. Next tonight, are bad owners or breeds to blame when it comes to dog attacks? Tonight, a Doncaster MP has opened a debate in Parliament on the issue. It follows the government's decision to ban the XL bully breed following a rise in fatal attacks. And only this weekend, actually, police seized 5 dogs from a house in Sheffield after a mother and her young children were forced to shut themselves in a room for their own safety. A warning, you may find some of the pictures in Mark Ansell's report upsetting.
CCTV captures the moment a man walking his dog in Sheffield was attacked by another dog. Incidents like this have become high profile, and the XL bully breed will be banned from February. But are dangerous dog breeds to blame or irresponsible owners? Neil Lasada from Barnsley trains police dogs. He thinks the outlawing of certain dog breeds has failed.
It's been proven since the pit bull was banned. There's been an increase in the population of pit bulls in the UK since then, so it clearly hasn't worked. And if you could insist that people had some basic education to prove that they were appropriate to own a dog, especially these kind of breeds, then at least then you would have a better chance of reducing the accidental injuries.
But the South Yorkshire Police and Crime Commissioner believes dog attacks are not just down to bad owners.
There are some breeds where the dogs are inherently dangerous and aggressive. Indeed, that's why they were bred in the first place, to be aggressive. And some of those strains are still there in certain breeds and types of dog. So we do need good training, absolutely right, we do need good training. But sometimes there are particular breeds where all the training in the world doesn't in the end save you from a dog turning and becoming aggressive and dangerous.
Should breeds be banned?
No, I think it's how the dog's brought up. I think maybe licensing should come back in, so then they know they're getting looked after properly.
I've got a friend that's got 2 of these dogs and they're perfectly fine. They're lovely dogs.
Well, the XL bullies?
Yeah, and they're good. They're good dogs. It all depends on the upbringing of the dog.
Do you think dog breeds should be banned?
Yes, I actually do think they should be. There are some very dodgy dogs about, I've got to say.
I beg to move that this House considers e-petitions relating to legislation in respect of dangerous dogs.
This evening, Parliament is debating the topic. Don Valley MP Nick Fletcher launched the debate. A petition is calling for the dog breed ban to be scrapped and replaced with educating dog owners.
So I definitely think it should be looked at again. I think responsible ownership is something that we should really push for.
The government says it has no plans to repeal the Dangerous Dogs Act. The dog breed ban is set to remain. Mark Ansell, BBC Look North.
And amongst our EFL teams, only Bradford had a win this weekend, a first under new boss Graham Alexander. Tyler Smith scored for the Bantams at Valley Parade, his 6th goal in 6 games. The 1-0 victory over Accrington Stanley takes Bradford up to 14th place in League 2.
We're not out of it. We've still got to keep scrapping and fighting and clawing our way out of the hole we've dug ourselves. But more of that endeavour, commitment, team ethic, allied to the quality we've shown at times, will put us in a good place.
Now, Sunday's evening session of the UK Snooker Championships was delayed after a fire meant the York Barbican had to be evacuated. Spectators and players were asked to leave the building while crews tackled the fire caused by an overheated ventilation fan. Some retreated to a local pub while they waited. Here's former champion Sean Murphy. He was later beaten 6 frames to 4 by Hussein Vafaye. Live coverage of the championships continues on the BBC iPlayer. Now, last week we brought you the story of Chesterfield father and son rally drivers Steve and Seb Perez. They had restored a vintage Lancia Stratos after a fire, ready for Seb to compete in the prestigious Roger Albert Clark rally over the weekend. Now, Seb had been moving up the leaderboard and was in 2nd place overall going into the final stage this afternoon, just 30 seconds behind the leader. But unfortunately, engine failure put an end to their hopes. Hugely disappointing for the team, but impressive driving from the 24-year-old up to that point. And speaking of exits, in the Women's FA Cup, Leeds United women were knocked out, losing in a penalty shootout to 6th-tier Darwin. But Championship teams enter the competition in the third round, and Sheffield United women have been drawn against Rugby Borough. That game will be on Sunday, 10th of December. Amy.
Thank you, Sally. Now, it's that time of year, isn't it, when Christmas lights and trees are popping up all over the place. Well, here's a tree with a difference. A food-filled Christmas tree has been unveiled in Scarborough to raise awareness of food poverty.
3, 2, 1.
Looks beautiful, doesn't it? This is a 20-foot tree. It's made up of the top 10 most needed food items this winter. It's part of a Tesco food donation scheme encouraging customers to donate to help those in their community.
This winter's going to be the busiest yet for food banks, and they're really just stretched to breaking point. So anything we can do in our communities to help and pull together, especially at this time of year, has a really big impact. So as you can see on the tree, we're talking about essential items, long life items of food, tinned vegetables, tinned fruit, tea, coffee, all of those things go into emergency food parcels that help people in your community.
Gosh, certainly makes you stop and think, doesn't it, that tree? Finally tonight, it's been called Life-Changing. A new hydrotherapy pool designed to help children with complex and severe needs has opened at a school in Leeds. The facility at Pennyfield Special School has been funded by a Yorkshire children's charity. One delighted parent has told us it's left her child so happy, which is wonderful. Here's Nicola Rees.
Oh, look at you standing up.
Freedom from her wheelchair. That's what the new hydrotherapy pool means to Ellie. And the feeling in the water, pure joy. All the children at Pennyfield School in Meanwood have complex and severe needs. So pool time is more than just playtime, it's essential.
Oh, it's just so lovely seeing that they can have just a lovely environment with all the lights, and it's just so nice seeing you so happy.
So you can see instantly that she's so much more relaxed. She's very chilled out. We're just taking it nice and gentle and nice and slow.
It's the first time in months that they've been back in the water after the old pool had to be shut down. The project's been funded by the Yorkshire-based children's charity FizCap.
The swimming pool was built in the 1980s. It needed revamping, it needed state-of-the-art equipment and lighting and technology. And it's not just about the children of today, where there's 68 pupils present, but it's about the children for next year and the year after and many years to come. We went out into the Yorkshire community, spoke to a few people in the world of business and managed to lock down the funding just shy of £196,000.
Lights and sounds help to create a sensory experience, and new equipment means a smooth transition from changing rooms to poolside.
It just makes life so much easier and much more comfortable for the pupils. The old tracking was really rickety and it was all juddery. You sometimes wondered if it was going to stop. Oh, does that feel nice?
Previously we had a pool that was usable, but it wasn't very nice. We didn't have any facilities for changing. The pupils had to be changed on poolside. But now we've got a brand new environment that's immersive, and they're absolutely loving it.
The benefits are transformative in both the body and the mind.
I like it. Do you like
The best part of the school day back in action.
Yeah.
Nicola Rees, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Isn't that just fantastic? How lovely. Paul is here now. What is this about snow? As excited as I am, because it's very festive.
Well, there aren't going to be any woolly mammoths walking around York City Centre.
That's a shame.
Despite what the tabloids have said, but it is the first proper cold spell of the season, and the fact that we're banging on about it so much is, you know, in large part because it's been so mild through autumn, so it's going to be really cold this week. Is there a risk of snow? Very little. I think we will see showers maybe into Wednesday night and Thursday. They're going to be of a wintry flavour, but we're not expecting any disruption, but it will be really cold. Now, we've had the first snow in some places. The Tan Hill pub, which is, of course, nearly 2,000 feet up in the Pennines, have had the first dusting, and there's been some snow right up on the top of Home Moss. So perhaps a few wintry showers to come later this week. But the main thing is it's going to be very cold indeed. Now, just a couple of pictures to show you. Can you just see the Northern Lights there? I love this picture of the M1, but just a faint glimmer of the Northern Lights last night. And the second picture is of Cornholme in Calderdale. This was over the weekend, but that was quite a hoarfrost, wasn't it? Very cold temperatures indeed. So that's a flavour of things to come in the next few days. In the next 24 hours, actually, we'll have a frost night, icy patches. If you've got any pictures, send them to me on those addresses, and I'll try and put them on the telly tomorrow night. So tomorrow's headline, it's a much better setup, actually. If you're fed up of all the rotten drizzle and rain, tomorrow will be clearer, mostly dry, lots of sunshine, lots of blue sky to come. We're in the cold air. These features try and get in, but they never make it. But we're looking at this northeasterly Wednesday night into Thursday. This could bring some showers in from the North Sea of rain, sleet. Yes, a little bit of snow, but as I say, we are not expecting any problems from this setup. Now, there's the overnight rain. You can see showers have been flooding in really from the North Sea. It's been really quite wet at times across eastern parts this afternoon. Those showers will continue to rattle in from the North Sea, some heavy ones in there, but gradually you see they become more isolated later tonight, and in fact many of us end up dry. Watch out for ice. The gritters will be out later tonight with temperatures around freezing point. That is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So tomorrow's high water times, Filey at 4:20, Bridlington at 4:31. So a cold, icy start. Do watch out for that. But otherwise, lots of blue sky tomorrow. A much more positive outlook. Lots of sunshine. The odd shower towards the coast later. It is going to feel cold. Even though it's late November, these temperatures are quite a bit below average, 6 or 7 degrees. Colder still Wednesday through to Friday, including the weekend. Lots of sunshine. There's a hint of some wintry showers coming through. Look at these temperatures. The average is around about 8. We're half that. 4 is 39 Fahrenheit. That is the forecast.
Thank you. Do me a favour, it's Cyber Monday. Buy yourself some new shoes, will you?
Oh, that could be on my Christmas
list. Even your
list.
shoelaces are frayed. That's it from us. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.